Hey everybody, Dr. Sandal here, breaking the boundaries of mainstream medicine. Today I'm talking shift with one of my friends, Stacy. We're going to be talking about long COVID. Long COVID. God, there's so much to be said about long COVID. Um, One of the things that we're finding about long COVID is that it is multifactorial. There's piles of different types of long COVID. There's tons of different ways it can manifest. And I think that it's probably still fairly underdiagnosed and not perfectly understood.
Mm-hmm. I would have to agree. Would have to agree with you on that.
So when we think about long COVID, what's your interest in that? Tell me about you and how you're interested in long COVID.
I became interested when I became a long hauler.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Um, I like to learn more about what's being done, the research that's being done, what they've found works for people with long COVID, things that
Mm-hmm.
they're finding out as far as how long it's staying in the body, how they're
Mm-hmm.
researching all of this stuff, and things that might be there to help long haulers in the future.
Yeah. So what have you found recently that has your attention?
Actually, I read an article today that they have found that COVID can exist in tissues up to 2.5 years after infection and can still be active.
Yeah, the virus itself, right? I, a lot of times we think about a virus as something that comes and goes. We get a cold and it comes and it goes. But in reality, we know that all viruses have this potential. They form what are called biofilms, or sort of little persistent colonies in our system, and they just continue to wreak havoc. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say that more than most viruses, COVID is a lingerer. When we're treating post-COVID, and one of the things that I'm really proud of is that we have been treated post-COVID since the very beginning of COVID. We were one of the first clinics, certainly here in town, but you know, in the nation, who was really pushing on this and saying, "Hey, there's something wrong here. What can we do?" Seeing people with active COVID, making sure they're getting proactive care so that things don't stick, and when they do stick, how do we push the envelope on that? And we saw really early on that this was a lingerer in a way that a lot of other stuff isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Nasty,
It
nasty.
is
It's just,
nasty.
man, COVID just annoys me. I mean, I can really get up on a
I
get up on a
agree.
soapbox and start
I
yelling about
agree.
it. It just bugs me how aggressively this thing was engineered. And I'm going to
Yes.
be controversial and say that, but it really shouldn't be controversial. We knew back in mid 2020 that this was a man-made bug. It had, very clear molecular fingerprints.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the odds of it being naturally mutated into this are astronomical. It's a pretty safe bet, even back in 2020.
Right.
And so seeing that, it's like, okay, well, all bets are off. We have some essentially weaponized crud.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be really aggressive and proactive about trying to figure this stuff out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're 4 years later and we're still trying to understand all the junk they jammed into this and all the mutations it's had. And
Try to undo it all.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think, unfortunately, one of the things that we see with all viruses, like we saw this with influenza, for instance, when it first really roared around in the early 1900s,
Mm-hmm.
is that we do develop technology to try and get better at treating these things,
Mm-hmm.
but also we have our own biological technology. We adapt and work with and kind of learn to coexist with this stuff, which
Okay.
is not the best answer. We want it
Yeah.
gone, but also the fact that it's still here after 4 years and still changing and fighting with us is like,
No, in 4 years, gosh, it has been 4 years.
it's a freaking time warp.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Someone
is.
pointed that out to me the other day. I was like, no, no, oh
Yeah.
crap. Yeah, it's
That's
2024.
crazy. I found that my life is divided into before COVID and post COVID.
Yeah, yeah.
How things were before then, how things are now.
Wild.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Crazy.
COVID affects so many different systems in the body,
Mm-hmm.
and different mutations, different variants of COVID affects different areas of the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're kind of on this never-ending manhunt. Like, how do we chase this stuff out of the system?
Mm-hmm.
And there isn't one size fits all. One thing we found is that some treatments work amazingly for some people and they don't touch another person. It's like, crap, why is that?
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of theories around that, but it's always evolving. one thing that may be happening there is that persistent COVID you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
in some people sits in the lung. In other people,
Oh,
it sits in the gut. In other people, it sits in the sinus.
okay.
And so different therapies that affect different regions in the body, well, it might be a great therapy, but no, I have persistent COVID in the gut. That's where it
I
hides.
see.
Or I have it in the... And so if we're
Okay.
using something here or there, we might be missing it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
We're behind still. I mean, I wish we just had, first of all, better diagnostics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, we are so behind on diagnostics for COVID. And this is maybe not that wild because we don't have great diagnostics for any biofilms.
Mm-hmm.
Even the existence of biofilms is not that appreciated in mainstream medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they know that it exists. The Department of Defense, by the way, does tons of research on this
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't share it with anybody else for national security reasons.
Interesting.
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 Um, but this is a established scientific fact that has escaped mainstream medicine.
That's so interesting.
And so now we have this massive, super critical problem
Mm-hmm.
that interacts with that same thing. And we got to get it together.
And the thing is that, when you're going to into mainstream medicine and you're dealing with post-COVID, what you run into a lot of times is, I don't know. I don't know what else to do for you. Whereas functional medicine, you're able to get to the root of it and treat at least the symptoms where they start.
Right. There's a push to continue the active process of science.
Yes.
Rather than the reactive process of science of, oh, this thing has finally been proven, it was published in all these journals, and now my professional organization is pushing it out.
Right.
Well, that could be 10 years.
Right.
Like, nobody's got time for that.
Right. And in the meantime, here's a medication that will cover your symptoms.
Right.
It's going to mask your symptoms, not treat them. And if you don't take your medicine, you're going to feel real bad.
Yeah, you can get withdrawals and side effects, and tricky. Yeah. Well, what have you found as someone who has long haulers? What have you found has effect for you personally? What moves the needle for you?
For me personally, first of all, rest when your body tells you you need to rest, and that was something that I really had to get used to because I was used to go.
Yeah.
That's my usual speed, and so it takes a lot to get used to slowing down to where you're not going to run yourself out of energy and kind of being kind to yourself. The LDN.
Low dose naltrexone, yeah.
Miracle
good.
For me.
Yeah.
Miracle for me. Just gave me that extra boost of energy. I kind of felt like my old self again.
Awesome.
And NAD.
Mm-hmm.
NAD.
NAD plus is wild.
Difference.
I feel like low dose naltrexone and NAD plus are the two biggest guns. They're the things that seem to work for the most people. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, they're completely out of mainstream medicine. I don't talk to MDs. MDs know what these things are. Mm-hmm. They know about naltrexone. Low dose naltrexone is just a retooling of naltrexone that MDs know about. It has a biphasic property to it. It does something very different at low doses than what it does at big doses. Okay. But MDs are aware of that. And then NAD plus, every MD in their schooling has heard the term. They don't know about it as a therapeutic. Okay. Like, I don't know, that's a thing I read in biochemistry.
Right. It's interesting to me how, the different things they're just used totally differently in traditional medicine than in functional medicine. And it's so helpful to have the functional medicine knowledge because that's the only reason that I'm in the place I'm in is because of that. Before that, it was just, I was at a standstill. There's nothing you can really do. You're just kind of
so
stuck.
Frustrating.
You gotta wait it out. Yeah. And that's not a good solution for a lot of people.
And one of the things I think that I'm happy about here at Alma Clinic is that we're able to take the time to personalize the therapy and make sure it works for people. Mm-hmm. And NAD plus, people can go purchase that. Low dose naltrexone, it's not that hard to get. A conventional MD might prescribe that to you if you really twist their arm about it. But there's a lot to be said about how to do that properly, how to make sure that it fits for that individual. And then also, while those two things are incredibly supportive, we also want to keep on progressing the science for you as an individual, right? It's like, how do I keep on getting more? How do I keep on pressing the envelope? How do we get rid of COVID where it might be sitting for me? Yes, the NAD plus really helps. Yes, low dose naltrexone helps, but I want rid of this damn thing.
Right. Right.
So there's that whole process of working with a physician or a treatment team that really is going to push the envelope that that I'm really happy to see becoming more popular.
Yes, for sure.
Rather than people going to their mainstream doc and they're like, Doc, I have long COVID. And they're like, good luck.
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Like, come on, let's go. Let's do
Yes.
something about this. But, and I say this often, your doctors are very smart people. They're compassionate people. They're good people, but they don't exist in a system that lets them do great work.
Right.
When you've got 15 minutes and your toolbox is mostly full of pills, it's very, very hard to do the work that their predecessors did, the sort of physician scientist, the old school, hey, I'm your physician, you're my patient, we have a relationship, we get this done, we push. Yeah. And, COVID is just a bad era for that type of medicine to exist in.
It is. It is. I feel like, before I was seen at Optima Clinic, when I was dealing with, long haulers, I can remember how I felt back then. And it was just I just threw up my hands. I guess I just can't work. I can, I can do so much. I couldn't do much but sleep, really. And didn't really see any kind of light at the end of the tunnel before the functional medicine approach. And then you start to kind of come out of that fog a little bit. And it might take a long time.
Yeah.
But it's actually solving getting to the bottom of the inflammatory processes, the brain fog. There's just so much that you can do in functional medicine for each thing that you're experiencing with long haulers.
Yeah, right.
Whereas, a lot of times in traditional, it's just like, well, there's one thing we could try, there's two things we can try. If that doesn't work, we got to kind of wait it out.
Right.
And it gets really frustrating.
Yeah, and the frustration is real. People get referred to specialists, and the specialists go, well, I'm going to refer to this other specialist, and there's a sort of conveyor belt that is just ineffectual. And also, when we think about COVID as a phenomenon that affects our society globally, but I'm thinking more about the US just for discussion purposes, this creates this inability to have a good treatment framework for COVID and long COVID puts a massive stress on our healthcare system. I think everybody knows that our healthcare system is kind of crumbling around itself because the whole insurance model and it's all completely ineffectual and bloated with bureaucrats and administrators, and it's just a mess.
Absolutely.
Having a big, novel, super complex issue dropped onto that system, it's just the straw that's going to, I'm not going to say that the system is imminently in collapse, but it's the straw that breaks the camel's back here. And we see costs just skyrocketing and care just diminishing. This is a lot of why we do what we do at Optima Clinic is we are parallel to that system. We say, well, how do we do good medicine again? We can't work with insurance. Well, damn, we'd like to. But they have this very narrow definition or contract they have with their payers on what they will do and won't do. And it doesn't involve thinking about the person as an individual. That's not in the contract for them. And so, in one sense, I had a friend early back in COVID, and this person's very intuitive, and they were telling me they had this feeling about COVID. Like, one of the silver linings about COVID will be, I'm like, there's a silver lining to this? Like, God. But he was like, one of the silver linings to this will be that people will be unable to ignore their self-care. Man, has that come true. Like you were saying, we have to listen to ourselves more. It's like, okay, I'm going to get run down. Crap, I'm going to get sick.
Yes.
It's just freaking ambient. It's everywhere.
It is. And you're forced to do those things. You're forced to slow down. You're forced to rest when your body tells you to rest, rather than pushing and pushing and pushing, because it will physically make you ill if you don't.
Right. Which, obviously we all want to be Rambo, and then go. But there's some wisdom, I suppose, to being reminded that okay, we're only human. We have to take a break. And then we will also be continuing to try and solve the root problems and get that energy back. But I think I do hope that we're left. I hope, first of all, we can conquer this thing and fricking just burn it out, frankly.
Yes.
If we have to adapt with it, okay, fine. We can have humility about that. But we're still going to push, dang it. And then also, hopefully we're going to get beyond this, but still all have that good attention to self-care. I learned a lot of really important things about my body and my limitations. And I want to feel freaking great and still, respect my biology.
Definitely. I've developed some good habits along this journey, and I know what foods cause inflammation. I stay away from those. I stay away from sugar, supplements, things like that are always a good practice to have. It also pushed me into that. So it's not been a totally bad experience.
Yeah.
There's a lesson behind it.
Good for you. That's awesome. Okay, well, awesome. Thank you so much for talking shift with me.
Thank you.
There's so much
Thank
more to say
you.
about long COVID, and we can do it again sometime soon.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thanks, Dr. Sandal.